4 years, or I think 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I walked into this church some time ago, and it was Eve and Richard that were in charge, and feels like yesterday. Yeah, it's been a great time here, and as our topic for today, everyone is welcome. We'll start by saying that I felt welcomed here, and very grateful for everyone that has contributed to my good experience here, starting with Paula and Jeannie. They've been my parents here, and they've accommodated me and everyone here. The Mark, Moses and the family, and Juan and family. Yeah, thank you. It's been a good time, and I think that kind of summarizes for me what it means when we say everyone is welcome. So back to our topic for today, and thank you, Miriam, for the readings. I just gave us a snapshot of what it means. What it means when we say everyone is welcome. And I think if you go to many houses and many signboards of churches and maybe even mission statements, you'll see that everyone says everyone is welcome or you are welcome, which is a beautiful thing to say. And but sometimes, it's just a cliche. We just put it and we don't know what it means when we say everyone is welcome. And some people are lucky, or some people get lucky in life, that statement is never tested. They leave the world and they felt like they've welcomed everyone, because nobody has actually tested what it means to welcome everyone, to welcome everyone. But I'm trying to differ here and see, perhaps people, when we say everyone, or you are welcome, or you will welcome someone, what does it actually mean? Our doors are open, anybody can come in. Does it mean that everyone gets a seat at the table? Or does it mean that everyone can even take the driving seat? What does it actually mean when we say maybe there are levels to when say people are welcome, and sometimes it's easier when we just say welcome and you just give you a seat. But the moment you start to encroach maybe the leadership position or some other stuff, then it becomes like, oh, that is not what we meant. We meant you should just sit here and stay quiet. In the book of, in the Old Testament, in the book of Leviticus, it says, "The stranger who sojourns with you shall be to you as a native amongst you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were once strangers in the land of Egypt." In the passage that we've read in Matthew, Jesus, I think last week, Paul led the lecture divina, and we read sometimes a little bit unsettling message. We had the reflection from the members here. We tried to reflect on what the passage is saying, and some people find it problematic, and some people try to make sense of it, and some people couldn't make sense of it. So today's reading is the last two verses of that whole chapter. And these two verses was just right after Jesus made those statements. In terms of whoever welcomes a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. Whoever welcomes a righteous person will receive the righteous person's reward. If you look at the Bible, there are examples of welcoming, and it starts from Abraham actually. When Abraham welcomed strangers, three people, the strangers, he has no idea who they are. He entertained them, and the guests he received carried in their hands the promise of the barren Sarah will bear a son. There is another example also in the Bible. If you remember the widow of Zarephath that welcomed Elijah during the famine, and when Elijah was hungry and there was no meal, she gave him the last meal that she had, or she shared with him the last meal that she had in her house. And we know the story afterwards. And also, if you remember, on the road to Emmaus, when those two disciples, grieving disciples, were walking side by side, a stranger who they did not recognize at that time was Jesus. And what they told him was, stay with us. They welcomed him as a guest, and at the table, when he breaks the bread, their eyes opened, and they see that the one they welcomed as a stranger was actually the person that they were grieving on. As I was preparing this sermon, a few weeks ago, or I think a few days ago actually, Caesar reached out to me that I will be traveling. Sas, will you be available to fill in my... So I was preparing a different sermon when I got the message. However, 2 days ago, I think on 25th, I think most of us have heard about the Supreme Court that ruled out that the country may end the temporary protected status of nationals of Haiti and Syria. This is together with what is happening in Venezuela, and also the continuance of war in Iran and other parts of the world. The illegal shelter of hundreds and thousands of people, let's say, some people that we may consider neighbor here, live and stay with us in their home countries, which is torn by violence and collapse and the rest. So that protection is set to end the 1st of July. But today, as we gather and we worship, I can tell you there are thousands of families across the country that lives in fear, and they don't know what it means or what the future holds for them. And coincidentally, today our topic, and from the lectionary, I didn't choose this topic. That is what Jesus is calling us to do. When I came to this country in August 2019, precisely, I know I've spoken, I came from a place where there's always conflict. From 2009 throughout, there has been non-stop conflict, gunshots, bombs, and everything. So we're not used to fireworks. So when I came in here and I was sleeping at night, and then I heard some fireworks, and it was at night, and my mind was just still thought I was still in Nigeria, so I ran under my bed. It was after some time that it occurred to me that I'm out. I'm not I'm no longer in Nigeria. Yeah, it was a difficult time for me, and COVID came. At that time, it was a new place. The winter was there, and during that time also, this present government was the government in charge at that time. Our status was threatened, that if you're not taking class in person, you go back to your home country, because you cannot take online classes, because there was no provision of the law is that you have to take class in person at that time. If not, your status is violated. So there was COVID, and then we are battling, trying to understand what is really happening. There was lockdown. For me, there was winter, and then there's you have to go back to your home country if you cannot take classes in person and the rest. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of the kind of fear that people live when they felt not welcome. And I've interacted with many people. One thing I tend to appreciate other people's experience. I cannot say I felt the same way like maybe those families are feeling right now, because my case is different. It's just an experience that if you've not passed through it, you can never be able to even conceive or perceive how people feel in this moment. So, how should we respond as Christians in these troubling times? As a Church of Christ, we cannot afford to be confused, and we cannot afford to lose our guard, and we have to always be on our guard. I think that is one thing that Jesus always tells us. We have to be on our guard. We have to watch and pray. The children of this world work tirelessly, day and night, and we cannot just do one step and go back to sleep. There's no way we are going to win this battle or this war. They are constantly taking steps, and we have to also constantly be on our guard. So now, the Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the law in the country, have settled the case. The question is, how should a church respond in such kind of scenarios? And for us, as I've said, we are not confused as a church, because the Bible is awash with examples of how Jesus handled the law when it mattered. If you remember a story of Jesus healing on the Sabbath day, it's in Mark 3, verse I think 1 to 6. There was a leper, and Jesus was passing, and they are watching to see. The people there were watching to see if Jesus will heal the leper on the Sabbath day so that they can accuse him of breaking the law. And he puts the question to them directly. Is it lawful to do good or to do harm? To save life or to kill? And Jesus heals the man right away. If you also remember the story where the disciples of Jesus plucked the grain on the Sabbath day, and the people accused him that his disciples were caught eating on the Sabbath day. If you also remember the woman caught in adultery, when they brought the woman to Jesus, and they cited the law correctly. They said, this is what Moses commanded us, that this woman was caught in adultery, we should stone her to death. Jesus didn't argue with the statute of the law, but what he did was to shift the ground from the offense to the people holding the stones. Let the one without sin cast the first stone. I think that is a popular phrase that. And there are also other examples, just touching the leper, the woman with the issue of bleeding and the rest, where Jesus, what he does is trying to look at the person. And there's a profound statement that he made, saying that the Sabbath was made for the human being and not the human being for the Sabbath. The law serves the person, never the reverse. Again, the question is, what should we do? Because at this time, as I've said, thousands of families are looking up. The highest court of the law has ruled out, so the only thing that they're looking up to is they're looking up to God. In their silent bed, they're just thinking, God, where are you at this time? In the last verse of today's reading, Jesus said, if you give a cup of water, just a cup of cold water to the little ones, I promise you, you will not lose your reward. Just a cup of water. Not a fortune, not a program, not a grand gesture. I know each person in this room and maybe elsewhere that are like-minded, thinking about these families or people affected by this ruling. We may feel powerless, and we may feel that the great wheels of the world turn far above our hands. That the decisions that crush people are made in rooms that we will never enter, and there is nothing we can do about it. But Jesus called us and say, we still have a cup of cold water. You can carry a meal to a frightened family. You can just sit with someone while hear them just talk. If you remember in the book of Job, when the catastrophe befalling Job, when his friends came, the Bible says they spent 3 days. They didn't speak, they didn't utter a word to Job. They were just there, silent beside Job. That is an example of a cup of cold water. The church can open its door in any way, either through making a statement or whatever it is, calling their Congress and their representatives. Is there a way out of this? But what I try to bring our attention is, as a church, where Jesus asks us to welcome the little ones, there's always a cup of cold water. And the God who notices sparrow fall will not forget the smallest thing he do for this least amongst us. May God help us.